Welcome to Mr. Podcast with Claude.
And Justin.
We are here to talk about, or to boldly talk about,
Uh-oh.
where we're
Don't
going to
split your infinitive.
go. Splitting infinitives is the wave of the future.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You really want that. You really want to split it. Yeah, we're talking about the new CBS All Access slash Amazon show, depending on where you are in the world. Um, Picard, of the Jean Luc variety. Would it be great if it was like a completely different Picard,
It would be. It would
and
be
and like Patrick
great.
Stewart just as like a cameo,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, "All
Yeah.
right, I'm off to go have an adventure in the galaxy. I'll leave you here with this other Picard you were not expecting.
Have fun,
Have fun."
assholes.
So yeah, man. So we have not talked about off podcast yet what we our initial impressions of the show. It just came on last night,
Yeah. I
and
wanted to hold on to it.
we
Yeah.
just watched it. So yeah, I guess we've talked about Star Trek. I'm sure offhand or in tangents throughout the podcasting history of Claude and Justin, but I don't think we've ever done an explicit Star Trek podcast, right?
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about the idea of doing Next Generation or Deep Space Nine commentaries or some sort of review podcast or whatever, but haven't gotten around to that. So yeah, we do have a big love for what I call classic Star Trek, which is not the original series. Uh,
Yeah, that doesn't count somehow.
to me, that's how I define it.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't a huge fan of the original, but grew up on Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager. Didn't really get into Enterprise, and I have tried 3 times to watch Discovery, and I really just can't do it. I really like something's wrong. I kind of blame myself in a way, although it's the show's fault completely that I just
Yeah.
can't sort of buy the world as Star Trek in some ways, and very few things in life make me feel like an old curmudgeon more than how I dislike this modern incarnations of Star Trek. Like it just makes me feel like I want it to be the old way because of no great reason other than I
Right.
like the old way, and it's like
Right.
although I do feel like I can defend my arguments that the older stuff is better. The new stuff is here to stay. So that's kind of the mindset I went into with
Right.
Picard of like, well, I can either be upset that it's not going to be the thing I want it to be, or I can try to like let it live on its own, in its own way and survive on its own merits. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I'll let you go first on your first thoughts there for
I
Picard.
agree. Yeah, I guess I feel like I should clarify my
Yes.
uh like
Cut
experience.
to backstory
Uh
exposition.
yeah, just so you know where I'm coming from. So I've seen a few episodes of the original series. I don't think I've seen them all. I've seen a few of the movies from the original series. I
Hmm.
also don't think I've seen them all. But I've definitely seen the first one,
Hmm.
and I've definitely seen the last one, um, uh, the Undiscovered Country.
Hmm.
I saw that one, and
Yep.
then it wasn't a big fan of any of that. Though I do think like the concepts in there, did lay the groundwork for what they kind of built on later. So I appreciate it
Hmm.
on that level. But yeah, the episodes themselves, maybe it's just a little too dated for me, or I don't know. But the Next Generation, I enjoyed that show. I do think season one was a little rough, but they really took off after that, and there was some great stuff on that show. And then Deep Space Nine, I also really enjoyed way more than I expected to. Um, in a way, it's more satisfying as a narrative than Next Generation is. Um, though Next Generation definitely has, um, some very iconic characters like the captain, who's still a thing this many years later. But also others. Anyway,
Yeah, one or
uh,
two memorable
Data, you
characters.
might say.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I have not seen Voyager. I've not seen Enterprise. I have not seen. I've seen the Next Generation movies. I've seen all those.
Hmm.
I've not seen Discovery. I have seen the first of the new movies, but I haven't seen the two after that.
Okay.
Anyway, I
The
just
J.J.
wanted to,
Abrams movies.
yeah, which
Yeah.
they're like partially using a storyline from
Yeah,
those.
unfortunately.
Um, so,
Which I
uh,
was,
so
oh, I can't wait to talk about that. Yeah.
yeah, I have my problems with
Yeah.
that.
I didn't,
Uh,
yeah, I didn't mention, I have seen most of the original series movies. None of them are my favorite. I really like the Next Generation movies. First Contact is my favorite. And,
yeah, yeah, I didn't really like Nemesis, but maybe part of that was just that it was the
yeah,
last one, and I was
I
just like,
tried
this
to
is a
watch
horrible
that.
note
It's
to end
actually the
on.
worst of all of them,
Yeah,
and I think
it seemed like the
I
worst to me.
I have tried to go back and just watch it, and it's really hard to watch. So again, like really cool, interesting idea that they're coming back to with this whole lineage and parentage type of connection to the characters, right? So you had Shinzon being like a clone of
Right.
Picard or whatever. So
Yeah, yeah,
and then in Picard, you have this sort of daughter of Data thing, or the
right,
daughters of Data.
right,
Um,
right.
and so it's interesting coming back to that. But Voyager's probably my favorite thing to rewatch. But I agree that Deep Space Nine to me is yeah, is more satisfying. It's like to me, Deep Space Nine is like a hearty meal, and
Yeah,
Voyager's like junk food.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
super
That makes sense.
fun and exciting, but Deep Space Nine's like can be fun and exciting, but it's like let's sit down and have an experience. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
it's like when you watch Lord of the Rings, you know, where you really get you know you really get a feel of living on the station in Deep Space Nine. You
Yeah.
know, you really get to understand the layout and where things happen and how it would feel to exist on that space station. I think more in a way than you do on any of the ships on the shows.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's really, that's really cool. That's a really cool
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think that stands out. It's also like not moving. I mean, they did eventually get a ship, but it kind of
Mhm.
sets it apart from the other series
It's
where they're in a ship.
it's the most probably counterintuitive, but important story decision of like almost like any Star Trek story ever is like, the idea of taking, the previous two shows were about ships going to the galaxy, and it's like, nope,
Yeah.
it's going to be a space station and it's not going to move, and you're
Right.
like, this can't work. This won't work, and it's like completely counterintuitive that it's like a great decision, if
Yeah.
you pull it off.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and planting it next to Bajor and
Mm-hmm.
the tie-ins with all of the Bajoran Cardassian plot, like
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff was really, and obviously the
Yep.
wormhole aliens. I mean, there's so much stuff going on there
Mm-hmm.
that
Bob
it's an
Rage.
interesting place to sit, I guess.
Yeah, they definitely didn't make it a space station in a boring part of space. It was
Yeah,
actually one of the most interesting parts of space throughout all of the Federation at the time
I
because
think
of
that
what was
helps.
happening. Yeah, that helped.
Yeah.
It's like in Voyager where it's good that the Delta Quadrant is teaming with enemies and things to contact, because if it was
Right.
like barren, there'd be no show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It'd be like super boring. Another scan and
There's
nothing.
actually
Okay.
episodes about regions of space where there is nothing and how it affects the crew. So that's
Oh,
interesting.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, so okay, what did you think
Oh,
about
okay.
old
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Picard?
Just circling back. Yeah, it just felt like to be clear on the perspective because I do think like when you bring back a thing, um, your experience with the old thing like plays
Mm-hmm.
into how you perceive the new thing, you
That's
know?
that to me is the ultimate question about this kind of thing, right? Is what do you want out of something that returns, right? That you have a past connection
Yeah.
to. You have two options, right? You want the same thing,
Yeah.
or you want something completely different,
Yeah.
or the hidden third option is it's either like it's different but you like it, or it hits the certain parts of it being the same with just enough balance of being different that you like it, right? I feel like that's kind of the spectrum there. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and
I
I think
think
like, oh, go ahead.
no, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think with the new movies, JJ Abrams stuff, like it has a very good balance as far as the previous Star Trek movies go, because that's what I really compare it to, right? Because the movies and TV shows are just totally different things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
it mostly works as what I want from Star Trek movies in that balance way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because most of them are like First Contact, right? Where they're very action oriented, they're very flashy, and that's my favorite
Definitely.
one. You know, of the Star Trek movies. So it's like, okay, cool. Now the thing I don't like is the alternate timeline and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The story part I think is the worst part of those movies, and the characters are fine. You know, the actors are good, and like they're the characters. That's like, okay, that's not the hardest thing to nail. When you're
Yeah.
just repeating old characters, right?
Right. Yeah.
But so yeah, so it's that's kind of, you know. So when I come to Picard, I'm like I don't want it to really be the J.J. Abrams thing. You know, I want it to be more of the old school thing, which you
Yeah.
can tell they had you know, they were trying to balance.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like my default is that usually I don't really want a remake or reboot or whatever. Like I feel like most of the time I'd rather, just have a new thing. I think if they're
Mm-hmm.
gonna bring something back, I definitely prefer that they make it like a sequel, like they actually incorporate
Yeah,
the stuff that happened on the old show.
yeah, not
And
just like a redoing. Yeah.
exactly. And I feel like they're kind of doing that here,
Mm-hmm.
um, in the sense that, they're connecting to like the thing from Nemesis,
Yeah.
which is good. Even though I hated it, it's like, I, I don't know. It's like a Nikki and Paolo thing where it's like, if you commit to it, just do it, like follow through basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sorry, that's how Data died. Like, it kind of sucks, but that's what you did. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad they didn't pull a X Files and just bring Data back and just like said fuck it, like, because they have a get out of jail free card, which is this alternate timeline. Like, because they're using this storyline from the new Star Trek movies that has this alternate universe. I mean, that means that all bets are off. Like, I don't the like when I like I don't think it actually matters, and I don't think they want us to think of this because of the way they're playing into nostalgia. But I just think technically, how do we know anything from the original series happened? Unless they tell us. You know what I mean? Like they reference certain things, and it's like, okay, well, I guess that happened. But like with the butterfly effect, the fact that this is an alternate timeline, who knows, like what could have been different, what can I even count on, so that's the thing that's frustrating to me about
Well, yeah,
the alternate
is
timeline.
and I missed it if it was really obvious, but because I'm trying to remember. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the explosion of Romulus is from the Kelvin timeline, right? Is that the deal?
Yeah, is that what it's called?
I'm trying to remember. We really prepared for this.
Yeah, I did see that. It was in the first movie apparently, and I did see it, but I don't even really remember it that well.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of. Let's see. Yeah, the Kelvin times from the first Star Trek movie, so that made the okay. And then when the USS Kelvin was destroyed, and then
Oh, okay.
let's see. Trying to get to this part. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves.
Like, I got confused because, the original series, obviously, or the original series characters that the movies are portraying, obviously, existed in a time well before the next generation, let alone the current series. So I was just a bit confused about how, like, a thing from that movie Picard participated in some way. uh, but then I realized that what actually happened was they time traveled from the future, and they said that the supernova thing happened that destroyed Romulus, and so it's basically time travel that explains how that could be possible. So anyway, just to say, uh, I uh, I don't think that they want us to worry that much about it. This is to me, this is the double-edged sword, which to me only one of the edges is like the biggest. Like, okay, it is a double-edged sword. Okay. The one edge is, cannot, like, if you to me, if you're going to commit, like, the reason why they did that in the movie is because they didn't want to commit to all the continuity from, the many series and movies and all that stuff that happened later. Like, I
Hmm.
get it. It's very constraining. They want to just be free to do like whatever they want, which is like cool. I don't have a problem with that, but the downside is, yeah, you just like you just took away like the things I was attached to. So I find that
Hmm.
kind of frustrating. I guess, yeah. The flip side is just, if they try to incorporate the original continuity, they open themselves up to continuity
Hmm.
errors. And I feel like this is almost walking the line between the two, where it's like we're acknowledging that it's a different universe, but we're also acting like it's the same one. Like, the Nemesis thing happened, so it's like whatever happened before that, the events of Nemesis were seemingly the same. I mean, at least at the end they were,
Hmm.
because what they describe is basically what happens in the movie at the end. Um so I don't know, it just feels like a weird compromise, because they want to indulge in nostalgia, but they also like torpedo the nostalgia. So I, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know. It's
it's
a questionable decision
it's sort of
to
a
me. I kind of wish they had separated it from the new movies
yeah.
and just made it, like, maybe they make some continuity errors, but like just make it connect, because
Yeah,
to
I
me the
think that
stuff
would have
that
been
connects to
too.
next generation is better.
Yeah, I think that's probably too confusing for people who are like, well, in the last movies, this thing happened, and I think
Right.
that's where a lot of people are coming from. And I agree that,
Yeah.
like, I would prefer the other thing, but I think to me, the weird part is that, like you said, the butterfly effect is we don't know uh what the history of these characters really is, right? And there is this kind of thing where Star Trek has often had episodes about multiple realities and time loops and fractured time, and a whole version of a crew is in existence, and then by the end they're dead, and now you're with another version, and you're like, well, okay, am I like, what's happening here? And
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? That so they've done that kind of thing before. I guess the big difference is you don't usually have to live with the long term consequences of that,
Right.
and be like always sort of wondering, you know, that episode where Picard did this thing, did that happen to this Picard?
Mm-hmm.
And you just like when he we see the Happy Picard Day banner, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like maybe there was a version where that didn't happen, or something.
Yeah.
Um, but so it's like, okay, cool. In this version that happened. All right. So
Mm-hmm.
it's tough to have to always play that game. And I think you're the only remedy really is to just ignore it, and just go like, I don't know what, it's like, yeah, you can't really solve that equation, right? Of like trying to connect it to the old stuff because you just don't know how it connects. And yeah, that's what makes the Kelvin timeline bad.
But to me, I want to, because what
Yeah.
resonates is the past, you know? So it's
Well,
just like,
it's like that's why it's interesting is because of the past thing. Oh, but by the way, we're not going to
exactly.
let you connect to the past
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we've
yeah,
got this
yeah.
new thing.
That's why it seems like kind of not the best choice to me. But yeah, you're right. Like in terms of
Yeah.
the, the overall Star Trek universe as it stands right now, like I guess I get it. But okay,
Yeah.
like so I think Vulcan is destroyed in the past, right? Doesn't that happen in the first movie?
Um.
Like Romulus is destroyed in the future, but Vulcan is destroyed in the past.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. That's right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I think that's what happened. So basically, like for example, just for a simple
Let me
example,
see.
shit involving Vulcan in Next Generation couldn't have happened the same way.
Mm-hmm. Why? Because it exploded.
Yeah, mainly.
Yep.
And maybe there wasn't a ton of Vulcan, but I know they mentioned it. I know it came up.
Oh, Vulcan is huge.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot. There's a lot that would be different if Vulcan was not around back then. Yeah, I'm trying to get a list of the alternate timeline like things here.
Oh,
It's
do they
actually
have
been a
them?
while since I've seen the first old new Star Trek movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was out like 10 years ago or something. So yeah, I don't.
So
I don't actually
Romulus is
remember it though.
destroyed in the prime year 2387. So in the regular timeline, in the present, 20 let's see, 20 years after the events of the Next Generation. Okay, so yeah, in the prime timeline, Romulus is destroyed. So
Oh, so it's destroyed in both timelines, or are we
yeah,
in that timeline
so
then?
no, we're okay. Then I think let's see. Yeah, so 20 years after the events of Next Generation, a supernova threatened the entire galaxy. In its path was the planet Romulus, the capital of the Romulan Star Empire, of course. Spock um, promised to help the Romulans. Armed with the substance known as red matter that could disrupt the supernova, he took a Vulcan ship to Romulus, but it was too late. The supernova destroyed Romulus. Spock launched the red antimatter anyway to stop any further destruction. And then that's when we have the ship with Nero. The Romulan witnessed the destruction and found Spock, and then he blamed Spock for what happened. And this black hole that was created, and they both got sucked in. So now the Kelvin timeline begins. So okay, cool, yeah. So Romulus just got destroyed because of supernova. So that was a whole thing, and yeah, they mentioned that in Picard. So they're using that as basically saying we're actually, what does that mean?
So that still happens even though they changed the past.
Yeah, because the past they changed. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. They didn't prevent it from happening in the past
Right.
yet,
Okay.
or I guess not at all, since Picard is after this.
Right.
Um, yeah. That would have been interesting. I guess nobody knows about that, right? That it's gonna explode. Like no one in the Star Trek movies knows that like 100 years from now
Ha!
the star's gonna explode. I feel like that
Yeah,
should be
I
the
don't know.
plot. God, that'd be a plot of what. Oh man, could you imagine if JJ ends his whole saga with Star Trek by having them like do like an incident type thing where
Oh no.
they repair the thing that started the timeline in the first place.
Oh no.
Oh, that'd be hilarious. And then
Ha!
all of the JJ Star Trek movies just exist in a pocket universe.
Right, right,
Oh, that'd be so cool. Oh man,
right.
that'd be hilarious, dude. Man, how can we convince him to do that?
It's like they all live in that evil Deep Space Nine timeline
Mm-hmm.
that they would visit sometimes.
The
Everybody's the same, but they're just
the
kind of
alternate
evil.
universe, yeah, the parallel,
Yeah,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, those are my favorite.
Uh, yeah. Okay. So then I think, yeah. So I think that's the next part. So they go back in time, and I think, yeah. I don't know, when is Vulcan destroyed. I don't remember that.
Is it not in the first movie?
Uh,
All right, I'm gonna try.
Nero used the red matter to destroy Vulcan. Okay. 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 Nero kept
Oh,
his
like
clock prime.
retaliation.
Yeah. So that was in 2258.
Okay.
So, and then that means, so that was 130 years before the supernova with Romulus. So yeah, so yeah, man, it's weird. It's a weird place to be with those two planets. I mean, that's like two of the biggest references in like the next generation are
Mm-hmm.
Romulans and Vulcans.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big deal,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, so does that mean the whole like remember Tasha Yar and the whole Romulan
Mm-hmm.
daughter thing or
Oh
whatever,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. That's
yeah, there's
classic.
all kinds of stuff that's different. Yeah.
That was so weird.
Well,
I
anyway,
look
I think we made the
exactly like
point
her,
that
but I have
yeah,
pointy ears.
this is, hey, what do you want from me? This is how DNA works. You're not a scientist.
Nah, that was a good plot. I have to be. It's kind of weird that it works that way, but
Because
that
she
was
like
actually
went to the
like
future, right? Or no, she went to the
yeah,
past.
yeah. It was wasn't it? Is that how it happened?
I think she went to the past and had a baby with the
She went to
dude.
the past and had a baby. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it was. That's what it
yeah.
was. It wasn't even her. It was like her
It was
descendant or
her
something.
daughter or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. It's a little
Yeah.
bit more
Anyway.
convoluted than I thought, but my point stands more or
Mm-hmm.
less that they do seem to be. I mean, they haven't. I guess they haven't definitively said that. I guess the key would be, um, if they mention when Vulcan was destroyed, maybe that would be more definitive about what timeline we're in.
Mm-hmm.
But from what you're saying, and yeah, various reasons, I'm thinking we're living in the movie timeline, the Kelvin timeline, as they call it. Apparently, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, therefore, like unless specifically told, I can't really assume. But it's like I don't feel like they want that. I don't think they want you to sit there and go like, well, I don't know if anything happened from the old series. Like, I just don't think they actually
Well, that's the thing. I definitely don't think they want that, but the question is maybe that is something they can't prevent
they
because
have
other
that
choices were better.
anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, well, the downside of this choice is people are going to be like, I don't know what happened. And then we'll just tell them what happened. Why don't
Right.
you just tell me what you want to happen?
Right.
Uh, yeah, so I think there's probably articles that say if it's definitively which timeline or not. I haven't read them yet, but I'm sure this question is answered because I'm sure they had to answer the question, during production, right? So did you just Google is
Okay. Yeah, I
Picard in
did.
the
And
Kelvin
Newsweek
timeline?
Newsweek says it's in the Kelvin
Yeah,
timeline.
there we go. I had a
So
feeling the
yeah.
answer would be on the internet. Call me
Yeah.
crazy, but every time I'm looking for an answer, the internet's got it. All right. Well, so what did you think of Picard?
Ha ha. Um.
We'll get
Uh.
there.
Okay. Honestly, like I didn't think it was that bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I thought it was all right. We watched a preview and the trailer,
Mm-hmm.
and God, did it look horrible. Um,
The
like
trailer was awful.
so bad. Oh
Very,
my
very,
God.
very, very
And
bad.
some of the stuff from the trailer was in this episode.
Yeah, well, the problem is all of the stuff in the trailer that came off poorly lacked context. and
Exactly.
with the right context and setup, it played a lot better
Definitely.
than, oh no, I'm a random girl and I'm supposed to come to you, Picard, and
Right.
help me in this action plot across the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, I don't want to see that. That's not Star
Seems like a
Trek.
horrible
That's
idea.
that's any
Yeah.
other action story ever.
Yeah.
Like that has nothing interesting. So yeah, okay. I'll let
Uh
you continue.
yeah, so no, I totally agree. So yeah, I guess I was pleasantly surprised that, they did tie into the old stuff with the caveat we mentioned in a way that kind of worked. They're focusing on AI, which feels very the plot waters that they're treading in here are very Blade Runner-esque, in my opinion.
Mm,
Specifically, the idea that these androids just attacked and now they've been
yep.
outlawed, and
Yep.
there's this one who's like living undercover, and so
Mm-hmm.
Captain Picard is cast in the Rick Deckard role
Mm-hmm.
of feeling ambiguous, I guess. Having this personal connection to data, and therefore
Mm-hmm.
wanting to help against the directives. And also, I now that I think, I just watched it today, and like I feel like I haven't thought it through enough. I just realized, like, another thing that I find a bit off-putting or weird is that he's
Mm.
like, he hates the Federation now.
Yeah, I
Like,
honestly
fuck
think,
them, what are they doing? They made
yeah.
horrible
But you know
decisions.
what? I actually like that because throughout Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, you do see the Federation losing its purity. You do see them. I mean, so a lot of it is because there's war, but
Yeah.
you do see a lot of times when, like, it's not that original Gene Roddenberry version of the perfect future, right? You do see like the institutions breaking down and like bad calls
Yeah,
being made
Deep
and
Space
stuff.
Nine
So
definitely had a lot of that.
yeah, so that's why I thought like that. Even though I agree with your general, like I don't want Picard. Like what I want is the old Picard who loved the
Yeah,
Federation.
it's just a bit
But I thought it
strange.
was a
I hadn't thought
good.
about it.
I thought it was a good. It felt true. Like when that landed for me, it felt like the natural thing to pick up on as a source of conflict for him.
Yeah,
That he didn't change, the Federation changed,
right.
and that is why it feels true. Is because I can believe that. I can
Yeah.
believe Picard would never change. Right now, if they did like he's a bad guy now, right? Now
Mhm.
that would feel untrue
Right, right.
and really really bad. So yeah, that's an interesting point. But yeah, I thought that actually landed, and it was surprising to me because I'm like, oh, okay, I
Yeah.
see what you're doing
Yeah.
here, and it actually makes sense that he would have a problem with, especially in the context of this like reality show interview thing he's doing, and it's
Mhm.
very like gotcha journalism. And
Yeah,
one of the things I
yeah.
didn't like in this episode was like so many things were very mundane, and that is does not feel like Star Trek to me.
Yeah.
All the
I
mundane
agree.
things that happen in Star Trek are interesting because the world is interesting and the sets are interesting and the characters are interesting. But I think with Picard, like they brought it down to earth literally so
Mhm.
much that it felt like any other show. This would have been a scene in anything else you could have watched, even
Yeah.
down to like the holographic screens, which I think are not Star Trek at all. I think that was another thing I want to complain about was just like it lacked the attention to design details that the original shows had, the older shows had, where it they it even if it was unrealistic in some ways, like the technology and how it was displayed still had this like aesthetic that captured
Yeah,
a
yeah.
futuristic idea. And I
Yeah.
think we've seen holographic displays for the last 20 years in movies and stuff, and it just feels boring. That it's just such an easy effect to do, and there's nothing, like when I watched Total Recall, which is from the 90s, 1990, and so it's like what 40 years old or something, no, 30 years old, and wait, is it 40 years? What's my math? 30 years old. Yeah.
30,
And
yeah.
in the beginning they're watching TV on these huge wall screens, right? Like it's like a normal wall, and it's like they're outside the view of their place, and then they press a button and out to TV. And even though
Right.
like the quality is from the 90s, it still feels super futuristic because I can't
Hmm.
do that right now.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
turn one of my walls into a TV.
Right.
you know and so like that kind of thing, I felt like Next Generation and all the Deep Space Nine and Voyager and stuff, those shows really captured that in really interesting ways. Because even like the tricorder, right? Like it's not really realistic that something that huge, in the 2400s, like something that thick and bulky and like, you know what I mean? But like as an idea, it's great and cool and interesting and functional and feels futuristic, you know. And I just thought I didn't see any of that in Picard, really. Like, just on that level of like, oh, okay, you're really making me feel like you're depicting the future.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it was definitely more generic in that
Mm-hmm.
way. Uh and yeah, I think the other thing that affected my reaction was that my expectations were so low from the trailer. I was like ready to hate it,
Mm-hmm.
and I was surprised when it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Was it Star Trek like in the way that I'm used to? Like not at all.
No.
Not really on any level. Even the like thing that was on the Enterprise in the dream sequence felt off to me. But
Mm-hmm.
which is like the closest they came, I think, to an
Yeah.
old school type scene. Um uh uh but yeah. Um I agree that it does seem like they've lost touch with certain like core aspects of what the design is supposed to look like and how the world is supposed to function,
Mm-hmm.
and they've just gone
Well,
for standard.
yeah, but and it's like in a way that can be fine, because what on Next Generation, we didn't really see characters that were not part of some, most of the characters we saw were in the context of the Federation or
Right.
some sort of military, right? Like
Yeah.
one of the things that was really off-putting to me is the Romulan dude at the very end that's introduced, and with the when
Oh,
we
the
discover the
British the
other
British
twin.
Romulan.
Dude, don't even get me started, man.
I
And
was
one of the
like, how
things I
does
was
that
like,
work?
I was
But
like, yeah,
whatever.
well, his
There's a British
parents
French guy, so I guess
immigrated
it's fine.
to London, and he was born there.
Fair enough.
But the thing, and I think they are trying to say something about immigration, right? Because the Romulan homeworld was destroyed and they're
Right.
displaced, and so I think we're
Yep.
supposed to be seeing Romulans where we're not used to seeing them.
Right.
But what was super weird about just the character design was this guy's beard. I'm like, I've never seen a Romulan with a beard in all of my
Ha.
days. There has never
Ha.
been a Romulan, because they're
Ha.
all in the military and they're all clean shaven,
Right.
and that's the
Yeah.
Romulan look. And I
Right.
was like, first of all, I was like, why did the makeup was really off putting to me too for them, because even with the characters who live with Picard, like they're so like 95% humans with like these little add-on details, right, of
Yeah.
that make them alien. And I think without that uniform look and the whole like in the original, when you think of Romulans, and I'm on a weird soapbox, it shouldn't matter, but like this is the stuff I feel like is important with like like the original Romulans in Next Generation. Every Romulan looked like a Romulan. You know what I mean? They
Hmm.
look different because they're different actors, but they all look Romulan,
Right.
and the design captured what that
Yeah,
alien
they all
looked
had the
like.
same haircut almost.
And every time you saw a Ferengi,
It's
they
a
looked like
bit
a
much, but
Ferengi.
that's
Every
how it
time you
was.
saw a Bolian, they looked like a Bolian. And that's something that's really different in Picard right now, is that, and I don't know how much this is intentional due in terms of the story reason of them being displaced, is that they look less alien than I would expect. They look like
Hmm.
humans, but I get put off guard because caught off guard with it, because I look at their, like I'm watching the scene, right, And then I subconsciously noticed their face looks weird. And so I'm like, why
Mm-hmm.
does their face look? Oh, they're Romulan. Oh, that's right. Forgot they're Romulan. Okay, okay, cool. Back to the scene. And I'm watching the scene and I'm going. I'm like, wait, why does it? Why is this eyebrow? Oh, he's Romulan. Oh, okay, and it's like
Yeah.
I keep forgetting they're aliens because the way they're designed that makes them look such like humans.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
never had that with the original, with the old depictions of the aliens. I never looked at a Klingon and thought, wait, why does he look weird? Oh, that's right, he's Klingon. Like, it just never happened.
Right.
And so yeah, with the guy at the end with the beard I was just like, so what's wrong with his face? Huh? Oh, he's Romulan. like I'm like I'm like,
Right.
why did I not notice that he's Romulan? Why is he coming off like a regular human being? You know what I mean? And it's like, to
Yeah.
if they do something with that idea, like that would be interesting to me. But I wonder if it's just bad. Like it's just they're not thinking of it in the way that they could use it to say something about now that the history is different, or now that Romulus has exploded, and now we have all these Romulan immigrants. Culturally, we have to depict them differently,
Yeah.
and I so I'm gonna be curious as the show goes on. Is that a theme you guys are doing consciously, or is this just some byproduct of how you just are designing the characters now and they're not thinking about it from that level,
Right.
because I'm like, I just never seen a Romulan with just a dude bro beard. He's like a dude. He's like a dude who happens to be
Yeah.
Romulan. We've just never seen that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
you
true.
know
It's true.
so it's just super weird. And so that's what's saying about the how like pedestrian a lot of the, and you said generic, some of the scenes were like, in a way we've never spent a lot of time outside of the Federation, you know um military, everyone we're watching is on duty style
Yeah.
scenes,
Yeah. It's true.
where okay, well, what is it just like to sort of exist in San Francisco, and you're not part of the Federation, you know what I mean, like you're
Mm-hmm.
just whatever, like there has to be normal boring things happening. And so that's interesting. I'm like, because honestly what this feels like is, it feels like like old Sherlock Holmes, right? It feels like I could see Picard. I don't think this is a show they're gonna do, but I would completely watch a show where it's just Jean-Luc Picard solving mysteries every week. He's retired and he's going. He's like the new he's like a pulp detective. In San Francisco, and I mean, wouldn't you watch that? That's a total CBS show.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, and that's kind of what it felt like, where it's like he's gonna just be doing these like really boring things, but also he's fucking Captain Jean-Luc Picard. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, I could see every week it's like, oh, Captain, I need help with this thing. You know what I mean? And it's like he goes and he has to like solve a mystery. Like I would totally watch the shit out of that show,
Yeah.
because you know what you're gonna get from that, and it's really, and with Picard in his waning years, I could totally accept that as a concept for a show of like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, cool, it's just Jean-Luc Picard, doing he's retired, but like not really, you know.
Yeah.
But he's not captaining a ship. You know what I mean? Like it's not gonna be that story anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of what they're doing here in a bit is
Mm-hmm.
it's not the captain's gonna be on a ship and he's gonna have a crew and it's gonna be the
Yeah.
old show we want back.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll do callbacks, but it's never
Mm-hmm.
going to be that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
That's
what was sad and hard to watch, was in unnerving too, which was like this action scene where he needs to protect
oh
the
God.
injured girl. He could do
Yeah.
nothing. He had
He was
nothing he could
so
do. He
yeah,
was so he like somebody like,
helpless.
here, hide behind this thing, is what they told, and
Yeah.
that's hard to watch. And I think one of the things I thought could have been done to mitigate that kind of dissonance between the old Star Trek and the new Star Trek is I think the action was too fast, right?
It was
It's
really,
4 times faster than any action sequence on Next
yeah,
Generation.
it was so amped up. Like it was, and some of that was from the trailer, and it was just like,
Yeah,
oh my god, they're
I
really pumping
thought
it up. Like,
I thought they could have tried to walk the line better between what we know from the original Star Trek stuff. I say original, I mean the 80s and
yeah,
90s stuff.
yeah,
It well, the original stuff too is like make
yeah. I
it
think that
how about like
applies.
make it double speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make it twice as fast because like she's a augmented whatever she is,
Yeah,
android or whatever. So cool,
yeah.
yeah, she'll be faster than a normal human. Cool, we
Right.
get it.
But
And the people
Data
she's
never did
fighting are
shit like
trained.
that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like
It's
it would have
ridiculous.
been I think nicer to have it that first action sequence be sort of in a 2x speed and then
Mm-hmm.
later, maybe amp it up later when we get used
Save
to
the,
that.
yeah, extra gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
like they could have pulled back a little bit from cuz they don't need to sell that, right? I'm not watching it for that.
It does feel like they're trying to sell it like,
Mhm.
look, action, excitement,
Mhm.
explosions, jumping, shooting,
But it's
fighting.
just it's the same stuff we've seen. It's like Jason Bourne stuff, right? Like it wasn't well, except for when she jumped like 50 feet in the air. I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was cool. I'm
That
like,
was,
okay, that's
yeah.
something would have never done in the original.
Yeah.
Uh, just
Yeah.
just wouldn't have happened. But yeah, so that stuff was weird. And then the other thing I'll say is, I mean, I agree with you overall. Like, I enjoyed it in general. My expectations were very low. Jean,
Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart, yeah, he is the show obviously, and I think
Yeah.
the title is makes perfect sense. It really is the perfect title, and eh, but I think it's 90%, 95%, 98% him.
Ah.
you know,
Yeah.
and that's about it. And which is why I would watch him just solving a mystery of the week, like Murder She Wrote or something. But it's Jean
Yeah.
Luc Picard. Like,
Yeah.
let's do it, guys. I'll watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, he really brings it. And that was something that really helped me in season one of Next Generation when, like, some of the plots are a little bit crappy and some of the sets are a bit crappy.
Mm-hmm.
But Patrick Stewart would walk in and he would deliver like some really heartfelt monologue. And it was like, holy shit, like it just raised the level of dramatic interest.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel like, it's not really the same because of the context and time has passed and so on, but I do think he's still, I mean, he's just a good actor. And I just think
Mm-hmm.
he's got like a really good handle on how to play the character and like draw the viewer in. I think thinking about it, like another thing about the characterization that threw me a bit, and I guess it's just related to this backstory that they're giving him with the Romulan relocation and how that failed and so on. But like, he starts off being like, oh, I hate waking up. Like he's like, and later on they say he's like waiting to die or something. I'm just like, God, that's so, it's
Mm-hmm.
so weird to me to imagine, Picard like getting to that kind of place.
And that's
Um,
tough because we don't know how he got there. You know,
yeah,
I think so. It's tough to accept such a different character.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just assuming that it has something to do with, inertia slash the stuff that happened before that they talk about in the interview.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree that it's not actually explained.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
Um,
we haven't seen it dramatized, so we can only imagine. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So, which I agree,
yeah.
it's I'm sure has to
It's
do
just
with. Well,
having
he's
the
absolutely he doesn't have anything to do. He's got no purpose, right? So that's number one for a person
right.
who's all about purpose, right?
Yeah,
Dedicated his life for a purpose, So
right.
obviously, when you don't have that, that's he's sort of unmoored and sort of just flailing around. But then the whole data thing and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So I thought, they did a good job with giving him a lot to wrestle with and putting him in a place of conflict and this whole legacy idea, right? Because we want to think, well, Jean-Luc Picard was the most, well known captains ever in Starfleet, one of the most famous and pivotal in so many ways, right? And so we want him. We have think of him as having an excellent legacy, but it's like the show starts with, yeah, no, he's sort of this weird figure where
Yeah.
he's revered, but also like there's a scandal about things, and
Right.
so I thought they did a good job with just setting him in that place, and that I thought that's an interesting vantage point to kind of have his character start from.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Obviously, if they want to do an arc, like they have to start from somewhere other than like things are fine.
Mm-hmm.
But uh just in terms of the whole series, like, obviously Picard went through various struggles, but I just feel like he was never that downbeat, it's
Mm-hmm.
weird. It's like it's almost like
Oh, he
he's
couldn't
like
have. Yeah.
what's his name at the beginning of Apocalypse Now, like losing his mind, like not having a mission.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and I think it makes sense, right? Because he had things to do back in the day, and he
Right.
hadn't lost like everything. And also,
Yeah.
like that's this thing about crewing with a crew is he he'll never have the exhilaration in his life again of
Right.
being on that ship, the Enterprise, right? Like with that crew, that was the highlight of his life. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to see that kind of thing play out. And I did really like that line where he said what was the line that he said about waking up? He prefers to stay asleep or something like
Yeah, something
that.
like
He's
that.
starting to
Yeah.
resent waking up, which I
Yeah.
thought's like that felt again like a true thing. Someone at the end of their life, oh, that's what he said. To Data, he doesn't want it to be over. He doesn't want the game to
Yeah.
end. That's what he said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You picked up on that line from the trailer. I
Yeah.
forget what you thought it was, but yeah, that was definitely a clue.
Did I think it was like it was a holodeck or it was a
I
dream or
thought you thought,
something?
yeah, it was some kind of simulation, like a holodeck thing or something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, they just went with the dream, I guess.
Classic dream.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. He's longing for the old days, and he's
yeah,
got this um guilt or something with Data's death, and that's
yeah,
unresolved. So this picks back up. So yeah,
right.
oh, the characterization of Picard works. I don't have a lot of problems with that at all. It's really the other stuff. Like that's why I said it's 95% Patrick Stewart,
Right.
and it's really where we are in the world that and what's the story really about. I'm not that interested in this. Blade, you really called it with Blade Runner. I mean, it really is the major beats of Blade Runner,
Yeah,
and I think
yeah.
like what's interesting is like I did like the detail to know that there's never been another sentient AI like Data, and I
Mm-hmm.
found that super surprising
Me
because
too.
we get a sentient android like Data, I should say. We get a sentient AI in the form of the Doctor from Voyager,
Oh yeah,
and
right.
we come
Oops.
across other sentient artificial intelligence throughout the show.
Yeah.
So it was surprising when they're like, "Yeah, no one else says we never did sentient intelligence in an android again since Data." Right, so Dr. Noonien Soong was onto something,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I think it's interesting that no one is really referencing that history, right? And so I'm curious what people know. First of all,
Right.
did it happen the same way? Now we have to like
Mm-hmm.
follow
Yeah,
up.
there's one question.
But they're gonna say was Data was created by the Daystrom Institute, right, or something
Right.
like they could change
Yeah.
his origin, I
They
guess.
could definitely say that. Yeah.
But so I'm curious if like that's gonna come into play. Like Picard's gonna have to go back to the planet where Data was created, or something, or maybe and they have the like B4
Mm-hmm.
body on display, which means an android deactivated in the first act gets
Oh
active.
no, not Chekhov's android body.
Yeah,
Okay.
he'll get activated by the third act, I'm sure. Honestly, what I think is going to happen is they intimated like with this idea of thank you quantum flux or quantum mechanics, right, for being the magic of our times. But this whole idea of Data's memory could be within his daughter's
Oh yeah, yeah.
body.
They definitely set the stage for data
So I
resurrection.
think
Yeah.
Data's going to be resurrected in the body of B4, so we can
Yeah.
get him back.
Yeah.
That just seems like an obvious thing they're gonna
I agree
do
completely.
because they
Yeah.
they didn't need to show Before's body that way. I mean, they made it work in the scene because they had to explain that he wasn't really anything like Data and all that stuff.
Right.
Um, but yeah, and then we get this like Battlestar Galactica thing where we're talking about artificial androids, but in with human bodies,
Mm-hmm.
basically. So now we're on that
Yeah.
level,
Yeah.
which I guess is like the replicant thing, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
so, which is just, everybody's done it before,
Yeah, I
you
agree.
know.
I agree.
So I wish it was something,
It's not a bad idea,
and
but
also
yeah.
it's very similar to with the Blade Runner 2049, the sequel to the original Blade Runner, they
Mm-hmm.
did push forth the idea. You saw that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they did push forth on the android idea, right? So okay, what if two replicants had a
Had a
baby? Okay,
baby.
cool, right?
Yeah.
But it's like that's kind of what Picard is doing. So Data
Yes.
somehow
You're right.
created children, which is like
Yeah.
okay. So like, what's the idea beyond that with androids? Because that's what
Actually,
Picard should be doing.
I have a question about that. Because I think you'll remember this. Because I only vaguely remember this. Isn't there an episode of Next Generation where Data like makes a daughter? Doesn't that happen?
Yeah.
Now by the end, is she disassembled? Like I don't actually remember like what the resolution is, but I remember that there's
Uh
an episode where that happens.
yeah, here it is. Um Lie. Lal?
Lol.
Lol. I was like, I'm very close.
I think it's lol.
Okay. Yeah, at
Before it was
first
bad to say that.
Picard was furious with Data for creating artificial life without looping in the Federation. Uh, Picard defended Data's right to be a parent. Lal eventually superseded her creator, managing to use contradictions and feel emotions. Oh, that's right. All right. Data was
Ooh.
like, wow, I'm better than you. Let's see. However, feeling emotions result in a system collapse. Data honored his daughter by
Okay.
copying her memories into his neural system. What? Oh,
Okay.
wow. So I wonder if they'll say anything about like Lal's memories from Data were copied into these new
Hmm.
daughters.
Yeah, yeah. It feels like it should be related. Again, alternate universe. Who knows if that even happened? But that feels like I don't know. I of course it's like you know, if you think of a sci-fi idea, like probably Star Trek did it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird that it's actually specifically the thing that they're centering the story around this time. Except that I guess he made one that's like more human like. I don't quite
Mm-hmm.
understand what they're saying honestly, but yeah, it seems like it's like Battlestar Galactica where you can like barely tell the difference except when they're like fighting or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. And this whole ban on androids I thought was interesting too.
Yeah, 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 that's very Blade Runner as well.
Yeah, the whole uprising
Yeah.
and revolution, and now where it's banned. Yeah, that doesn't feel like the Federation. Like that's not the
Yeah.
same world.
And yeah, your point about AI, like I do think they have some work to do to convince me that yeah, I don't know. I guess the first thing they have to do is explain like why did all of these androids like attack or whatever
Mm-hmm.
they did. I don't actually remember exactly what they said, but they did
Yeah.
something bad. Anyway, like what happened there? Why did they turn? Is there a good reason? Could we
Mm-hmm.
understand that? Um and then also like why was it so hard to develop something like Data if not only was there data, there was lore, and the data made a daughter, and of course
It's
it
that
failed.
positronic net, dude.
But it's like, what, I mean, at the very least, like, you could just copy it, I would think. But if they had an AI program in Voyager, like, I forgot about that because I haven't seen Voyager, so it wasn't in my mind. But it's a totally valid point that, like,
Yeah,
that's
and
the AI part's the key. I feel like the body would be not that hard
well, and that's why
once
they
you get
still have,
consciousness.
they still have the AI. There's the AI at the.
Moriarty too.
Yeah, so they didn't ban AIs, right? There's the all the computer AIs that are around on the show, the holograms that are talking to them, right? That's all AI. It's fine
Right.
if it's a hologram.
Well,
Uh,
that okay. Then I just really don't get it. Like,
what it is it AI in a physical body is what has been banned, which is what an android is, right?
so is it banned or is it okay? Okay, okay. It's just
Yeah,
been banned. It's not. I guess
the
I'm getting confused
creating
between
them.
it being banned versus like they can't do it. Like,
Yes, what they couldn't do, no one was able to create an android like Data.
yeah. Okay.
Now, that's what they couldn't do technologically. But what was banned was developing androids like Data at all.
Right. Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
basically, maybe someone could have developed the data, but they don't even get to try anymore.
Right.
So that's the whole research has been stopped. So maybe in the intervening years they could have cracked it, but since the revolution or wherever the riot was, they haven't even been able to try.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So, but yeah, it's a whole weird thing. I had to think about myself. I'm like, they ban AIs? No, not AI. It's because they've got computers.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's just like the line there isn't so clear. It's like, why is embodying AI such a big risk, whereas letting AI
Because I think
run all of
they
these systems is not?
because the autonomous control, I think, is the problem. I mean, that's if it's in its own body, now it can do things. And I think, yeah, I mean, I hope the show gets into that, to your point. I hope they can, well, once they're in a body, now they're demanding rights or something, and now we
Mm-hmm.
have to whatever. And it's a threat to the Federation and the riot. I mean, maybe that's the plot line, right? The riot was an inside
Mm-hmm.
job to
Yeah.
stop them from demanding rights or something, or
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. In these modern times, I don't expect them to say, well, they were just evil.
mm-hmm.
The end. That doesn't seem like a choice very many people are making these days.
Yeah.
So yeah, I expect there to be some decent explanation. But it's just like, I'm just thinking like, you know, um like isn't there potential for like an AI, like if the AI has is sufficiently advanced, I mean, maybe they just like throttle like how advanced they can be, but I just would think like there'd be a risk that they just take control of something, if they
Mm-hmm.
have the power to control various systems or
Like
whatever.
Skynet.
Yeah, like Skynet, exactly. Like, it just seems to me like, there's maybe there's less of a risk without the bodies. I guess I could buy that, but I would think it would still be something. I don't know. I would think it would still be a problem if it's a problem that you have, you know, AI in bodies.
Yeah, but I think it's you still want to have as few problems as possible, and then there's some problems you have to live with, right? So I think that's
Right.
kind of they just have to live with the AI in a network problem,
Yeah.
but they don't have to live with the Android problem.
Right. Right.
It's interesting. I'm curious if they will get into that kind of
I
political
hope they
and
bring up the doctor
politics.
thing. I feel like that's. I feel like
Hmm.
I didn't even think of that. I feel like it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
Seems
so
very relevant.
so a minor spoiler on Voyager, there's other holograms that are out in the world, and The Doctor is a unique one, and he has a mobile emitter, which lets him basically be in. He's basically an android, but
Mm-hmm.
he's a hologram.
Yeah.
So he's autonomous. He can do whatever he wants, but he
Yeah.
but he's technically not flesh and blood or
There. Yeah.
physically there. So he's got this kind of loophole thing, but there are other holograms out there, and it would be nice to know if there's any laws, because there actually was some things about that as you would imagine, the rights of holograms and what are they, right? So
Mm-hmm.
be interesting if they touch on that at all.
Yeah. 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 It seems relevant. Uh. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I think the topic is interesting. I do wish it was a little less derivative, but
Mm-hmm.
um, depending on what they do with it, like it could turn out to be an interesting story. I don't know exactly how they're going to spend their time
I
and what they're going to focus on.
I was really surprised, and I guess I'll give them brownie points. I guess it's a good surprise, but although it doesn't feel great, but well, because I'm not going to give them brownie points because I think it splits both ways. But I was going
Okay,
to say they had the balls
neutral.
to kill the main character that we were following outright, the girl, and I thought
Yeah, yeah,
that
they
was.
do have a cop out, but at the same time, it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, I agree. That was really confusing to me. I was like, what the fuck did that? Okay, I was like, okay, so why is she not dead? Like, what happened?
Mhm.
Get transported away, like whatever.
Mhm.
But then when they brought up the twin thing, I'm like, well, okay, I guess she really is dead.
Yeah, well,
And
when Picard was like gave his soliloquy, I was like, "Oh, she's really." Oh, I thought
yeah,
like he just thought she might be dead, but then she'll show up later. But it was like, no, she's dead.
yeah,
But
yeah,
the reason I give them negative points is because the twin isn't the one we had any emotional connection to,
true.
and she actually seems like she has a completely different personality. And I
Yeah,
thought the first girl, I thought like even though it was derivative, she did a good job of getting us bringing us along with her journey,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden like all the emotional connection built up to her and with Picard is just out the window. And
yeah.
now they're gonna go to this new person he's got to go find, but like they're gonna have a completely different relationship with each other.
Right, right.
And so that to me is like a weird, it's gonna leave this aftertaste in your mouth forever. It's just like what I was kind of saying before about like if you're watching a show that has like time travel or alternate universes and stuff, and like the character you've been following dies and is replaced by the one from the alternate universe, and you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's kind of them mostly, but
right.
also not really. And but
Yeah.
practically it's the same, but technically it's
Yeah. I
not.
mean, Battlestar Galactica had that, like experiences matter. Even if
Yeah.
even if you're like
Mhm.
identical, from the
Mhm.
point of view of like being created, you're made out of the same stuff. You're just like, but if you have a different experience and you're AI, like it will shape you in a different way.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, so that's always
it will
gonna
never
feel
be the same
weird
character.
that, and it's also weird to see Picard fail
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
dramatically.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. But I will I don't know if brownie points is the right word, but it did surprise me, and I will give them like some kind of credit for like crossing a line that
Mhm.
usually in TV would not be allowed.
Yeah.
Because you are throwing away that like it's crazy. It's one
Mhm.
episode, like it's already, I
Mhm.
don't know, it'd be one thing if they killed her in like episode 5, but like
Yeah.
damn, like episode 1, like they have their one big fight and then she dead.
She's
Yeah.
gone.
So yeah, like I do appreciate that on a level, but I also agree that it does kind of undercut some of the
Mhm.
beats from earlier. I guess it's supposed to be about what it means for Picard, and
Yeah,
that's
so
the
they get
through
points
line.
for, yeah, for it being really great motivation for him not to fail again.
Yeah,
Um
yeah,
and he lost one of Data's daughters. So,
right.
but it's weird cuz it's going to feel like it didn't matter, right? And that's the problem with the
Yeah,
twins, I guess. Like Like it's gonna feel like that first one didn't really count. Like she's an
Right.
android and a twin. Like you're not even in existence. You know what I mean? Like it's like that shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
She should it should feel like a bad thing, and yeah, I think they're just gonna be like, because there was no version of the story where he's working with both of them, right?
Right.
like,
One at a
like
time, please.
exactly, yeah. There's no version
Yeah.
where it's like, okay, now I'm gonna help these two and there's like there's gonna be two actresses or whatever, or like
Mhm.
do all the work to have the one actress play both parts on screen at the
Right.
same time, and
Right. Right. Yeah.
so that was never gonna happen. But
The twin thing does feel like kind of a cop out, like the way
yeah,
they could have this shocking moment, but not
hmm
lose the storyline completely.
yeah.
Uh, they definitely could have. Yeah, they didn't have to write it that. Oh, they just make
Well,
twins for
and
some
it seems
reason.
like they were more interested in, and obviously in the long term story being about the twin on this ship
Right.
versus the fish out of water. I'm just a high school girl
Right.
twin who knew nothing and had no interesting backstory, basically.
Right. Right.
So that's what's weird too. Is they're like, yeah, we don't want to. We there's a story that we're telling with this other one that the first one didn't have.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, that's true.
all right, well, let's get into the episode. I guess we're gonna do some commentary on Picard.
Yeah. Let's watch that thing.
All right, everybody, get your CBS All Access streamers ready if you're going to watch with us as we boldly go where no one's gone before. I
Can
just
we
made
go
that up.
boldly or no? Okay.
No, we cannot go boldly. You
Okay.
take that adverb and you split it.
Okay. All
Okay.
right, let's do it.
All right. Here we go. Five, four, three, two, one. Picard. Amazon original. Fancy.
Yeah. It's not really an Amazon show, but fair
All
enough.
right.
Slap their name on anything, I guess.
So right away, the high quality graphics stand out. The insane
Yeah.
renderings of the galaxy here are really nice, very modern, very like what we expect from the Abrams movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And seeing the Enterprise in this level, it will always be great to me.
Yeah.
And I love when they do shots like this, where they
Yeah.
really connect the outside of the ship to what's happening inside. Like that's cool.
Definitely.
So it's a good start.
Heading
I liked it.
into I guess 10 forward is what this is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think it was 10 forward, was it?
Oh, it's not?
No, 10 forward's on the top.
That wasn't on the top?
This was in the front of the ship.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
This
Data
is
looks
some
a lot
other.
better than the original trailer. They did some more work on him in these scenes. If you go
Oh,
look
they
back at the
did.
original, yeah,
Okay.
he looked awful. You're telling you don't have a
So
tell. You're not
classic.
telling, you're telling. What if Picard's dead and this is all a dream? And oh, there's one thing he did in this episode. He didn't do in this episode. I was so pissed at. He never said to Earl Grey hot, he had like two chances to do
Mm-hmm.
that, and he didn't. And I always wonder when they do that, when they're like they get so close to the thing and they just don't do it the same way, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what are they thinking?
Yeah, it's like a half callback.
Mm-hmm. So wait, did Mars actually explode?
I think it was like attacked or something. They should explain it in this big exposition dump
They did
scene.
say Utopia Phoenicia was lost, which was sad to hear. But I was wondering if he was conflating the explosion of Romulus with the destruction of
Hmm.
Mars.
It could be.
Like,
It could be.
I
It
couldn't
is a
tell if,
dream.
like, yeah. So this is where we're like, Picard, the golden years, and it's
Hmm.
just like him in a regular world, and
Love
this
this
could
old school
be
architecture in
any time
here.
period,
The
in the
visible
20th
beams.
century.
Yeah,
You kind of lose the feeling that you're in the future.
definitely.
Like even these sprayers don't feel that futuristic. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like like the city, I thought they did a pretty good job here. I'm like, does that look like Star Trek? You know what I mean? Or does that look like something
Yeah.
else? And I'm like, okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Famous what? I don't know what race you are, sir.
Yeah. They just invent this? Is this a
I
thing?
don't
I don't
know. I'm like,
remember.
is it a callback to something or
Yeah. Yeah, they might. Yeah, I don't know.
she said dude, and I'm like, 20, 400 years from now?
Still saying dude.
But that's actually the anachronisms are totally classic Star Trek. I love like the Doctor. He'll like make these quips, and he'll be like, "Yeah, what are you, Cleopatra?" And it's like, dude, like that reference is to a planet, 5,000, 10,000 years ago. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
why would an alien understand that reference? Like,
Right.
and they just move along like they do.
Right.
So this felt like CSI Star Trek, or Star Trek
Yeah,
CSI.
yeah. Yeah. Don't you have a universal translator? Do you need to speak English?
I thought to speak English. I don't. Yeah, I can't tell why he said that. I thought it was to hide who they really are.
Oh, are you aware when a universal translator is activating, or do they not even have them because they're not in Starfleet?
Well, that's a good point. Are you talking about the when he said speak English?
Yeah.
I thought he was trying to hide the fact that they're Romulans or whatever. So like,
Mhm.
he's attacking, and if they talk in Romulan, then
Right.
people will go the
Right.
Romulans attack.
I just
That's
had the impression with universal translator that you couldn't really tell just by the way they portrayed it, you know what I mean? Like, could you tell the difference if
yeah. I
a
think
Romulan was speaking their language versus English if you're using the universal translator?
Yeah, I mean, I think on a like in world level, maybe I don't know how we're supposed to think about it. They never really
Yeah, the
nail it
universal translator
down.
is a confusing thing.
They don't nail it down that specifically.
Yeah, yeah. I just realized like referencing like speak English, like that's so rare in Star Trek because
Hmm.
like language is like a non-issue because of the universal translator.
Yeah,
They can always communicate with everyone no matter what. Everyone speaks English,
but
but
I think the
not
translators
really.
were on the com badges and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think
That's what I
they
was
have
wondering.
them. Yeah, for
Yeah.
everybody everywhere.
Yeah.
This title sequence I thought was interesting. I liked some of the ideas. Um but it came across like very specific. Like, will this make sense for season 2 or 3 or 4? This seemed
Oh
like a
yeah.
very specific idea that they're telling about this
I
DNA and
think
the
they would
genetic
probably
structure.
change it depending on
Yeah.
where this goes.
Yeah.
because they've already announced season 2. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so I guess they're getting more of this. But yeah, I agree. It's clearly tying in with the main plot.
Yeah.
The Borg cube.
Yeah, life being created, synthetic
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
But it's like nothing about Picard. This is, he shows up right when I say that. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I know that
it's not
sounded
a,
just hilarious.
I was like,
But
not about him. Star Trek Picard. No, I mean, all the imagery of
most of
creating the
it,
life was, unless it's like he needs to create a life, right?
right? Yeah, no, that's a good point.
All right.
Back to the chateau.
Mm-hmm. Chateau Picard. We only go the best grapes here at Chateau Picard because we care about you. That's why our vine ripened grapes. Yeah, this was like a commercial for his
it,
winery.
it does feel that way. Yeah, you're right.
I thought this was an insult to Riker, but
Oh, to name the dog number one.
yeah,
Yeah.
a British man speaking French.
Oh man, yeah. His French accent is that it's heavy.
Yeah,
It's like, are you really French?
he's 400 years removed from French.
Your name suggests you are,
Yeah,
but
it was really late Picard. I feel like I never understood who these people are. Did
they're
you?
like they're
The
like house servants or something.
I don't think that's true.
Really? I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they are. I think they're just like supposed to like clean stuff and like
No, I think you're completely wrong, and it's
prepare
completely hilarious.
meals.
I got the sense they live here with him that he invited them after the planet exploded, and they needed a place to live. And
Oh,
he's
I think
living.
that's what happened, but I think they're functioning as servants, more or less, like cooking things, cleaning things.
But are they doing that because they live there and they're helping out, or are you saying they're on the payroll?
Well, I don't know. Do they have money? Is that a thing? Did the alternate universe change that? I don't know about that. I'm just saying, like, practically speaking,
Okay, you're just saying practically what do they do? Gotcha.
that's really what they're
I
doing.
was asking who are they on a character level? Like it was weird to me to try
But
to
yeah,
figure
yeah, I
that
think
out.
they're like Romulan refugees that he's taken in.
Yeah, but that's my point is it's not clear.
Yeah, I agree. They don't say it.
It's not like, well, when you came to me after the blah blah blah.
Right.
I love
Yeah.
that line where she's like, "That's nice." The one that wasn't garish and horrible. You didn't want to wear that for a whole scene, that blue lipstick or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the normal lipstick looks good. Let's go with that one today. Love that.
Did he just say I want to keep my job? Because that would imply there's job. Anyway.
No, no. Did he say that?
Oh, he didn't say that? I thought he just said like I
Maybe
want
he
to keep
said
my
that.
job. All right.
That means she's gonna inquire.
Yeah, clearly.
See, they seem like close friends. I just don't know why. Like,
Yeah.
is it just because he brought them in? Did he know them before that? Were they previous Romulan friends that he's like, oh, of course I'll bring you in? Or was it like just people that he met during the
Right.
evacuation? FNN, the news of the galaxy, doesn't work. I don't know. It doesn't work. It's just
Wait,
too
what?
like just this whole idea of this like news network across the galaxy.
Oh,
Like there's
oh,
only
okay.
one, right?
Right, right.
Like, come on, there's got to be 1 billion channels by now.
Right.
Like that drone thing, that's fucked, dude. I just it's not Star Trek to me. It's not in the right world to have like drones flying around to get camera angles. You know what I mean? Like they never
Yeah,
needed that before when they did
that's
the
true.
reported
Yeah, the
video.
way the screens worked always confused me. Like it was
Yeah.
like they were always framed the right way, no matter where they were standing.
Because they have sensor tech, that advanced
Yeah,
sensor technology that can tell you what that angle looks like, right? So it's like
yeah,
that's how I always thought about it.
yeah,
But they so it's like this weird regression to have like a drone flying around that we have today, you know?
yeah. It's true.
And it wasn't like even silent.
Right.
All species lives matter.
Uh-oh.
Like they just made literally to my example of ancient Egypt reference to people across the galaxy who don't know Earth history like that.
Right. Yeah.
They literally did the thing I said they were gonna do. It's hilarious. But hey, that's classic Star Trek, so they get bonus points. It's
Right.
just the bad part of it.
True. Oh, okay. So that's the thing that happened.
Oh, that's what was weird is they conflate the two events. The evacuation went poorly because of the androids.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it kind of cumbersome is two things happen at the same time.
Right.
See, now it's not about the Romulans, it's about synthetics. So they have to make
Yeah.
this change of story.
Right.
And now they bring Data into it. Even answering that question was undignified, I thought. Just what I wanted. Gotcha. Blade Runner.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's like meanwhile in Blade Runner, every moment of this shot, all of these shots.
Yeah.
And that's the problem is like nobody's inventing what the future looks like. Everyone just replays
Yeah.
what we've seen before.
It's true. Whereas usually the remembered things that get copied like brought something original
Mm-hmm.
to what they were showing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I mean they hover. What more do you want?
They hover. Well, glad we have some technological progression in 400 years. Who said what?
Uh I forgot already. We have no, I forgot. It's gone.
I can't technically see you under the hood, but
Wait, could she read minds?
I I yeah, I wasn't sure what we were supposed to take from that other than she would know that he doesn't really know her. So that's why she knew that.
Okay.
I also thought this is the most crying anyone has ever done on Star Trek in the history of Star Trek. Like, we've seen characters be emotional before, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's something about either the high def quality or something, or her acting style, but it's so profuse in a way that I feel like I've never seen any other actor be like this on screen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like even the worst things that ever happened in Star Trek, no one's cried like this.
Yeah,
Or it
yeah.
hasn't been depicted in this way. So, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out why it's coming off like that. Like, is she just giving too much? Or is it, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I
people
think
have
it's
cr-
weird that it turns out to be an android too.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe they're making a point about that, uh yeah, I agree. It's pitched in a totally different way from the way they would play an emotional scene. Yeah.
Mhm.
There was just it wasn't just the sets and stuff. It was definitely the way they
Yeah.
were scripted and the way they were acting as well.
Mhm.
That
Yeah, there's
like
a whole
gave the
tone to the
tone.
world that all the
Yeah.
characters share, right?
Yeah.
This is dumb also. This is I hate this. I hate these MacGuffin thing. Can I see your necklace? No one has ever asked to see someone else's necklace. Like take that thing off your neck and hand it to me so I can inspect it. Who's ever done that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those
Now,
object touch points.
obviously he's you know trying to understand her and stuff, but I just thought like it's just heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Dodge. So is what she's remembering like like Data's memories or
That's
something?
kind of what I thought. Yeah.
And when she activates, is that Data helping her out in some way, or is it just, or did he leave some sort of fighting program in her memory, or like,
Mhm.
is she
Yeah.
engineered to be a weapon? That's what it feels
Uh-huh.
like,
Yeah, it
like,
kind of does. Yeah.
and that's why the Romulans want her or something,
Yeah.
or maybe they're, did we find out they're Romulans? I forget.
Wait, do we what?
The people who were fighting her in the beginning, did we find out they're Romulans?
Yeah,
Did
yeah, yeah.
they?
We found out they're
Okay.
Romulans. Yeah.
So I was
Yeah, they
thinking,
say
well,
it later.
maybe some androids survived and they want her as their new leader to make more of them or
I feel like
something.
we have to find out more about the. Did they say they killed all those androids?
I think they said they did. There's
Okay.
always some that survive.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And I guess these would fit into that model. I mean, I'd be surprised if there's not a connection between Data creating these girls and the android uprising thing, right? Like,
Yeah, I agree.
would they're about the right age for that, right? I think.
Uh how long ago was that? But yeah, I think you might be right. I
Yeah.
think they said 20 years,
20
so
years, yeah.
that's definitely
Mhm.
believable. Yeah, things should connect. But yeah, the first time through, I didn't know where the plot was going, so it does seem a bit different now, knowing what the twists are gonna be.
Mhm.
From the back, it looks like Data.
Yep. From the side, it looks like Data. Yeah, I mean, they did a good job. I mean, they're obviously doing like age reduction CG on him and other stuff, and like he looks good. I think it looks pretty good for modern Data.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the old Data, but
Mm-hmm.
there was no way it
I
was
thought they
ever
should
going to
have
look like the
said. I
old
thought they
Data.
should have said Data had a an aging chip,
Yeah,
and he just it made him age like
yeah,
normal somehow. He got human skin grafted onto his face or something.
yeah. But the problem is he died, and it's a dream. So I don't know. I guess Picard could imagine him aging.
Yeah, that's funny. The dog did it. That's what I kept thinking from that description. She was gone, but the dog was in her bed. Well, wow. Sounds like the dog has some explaining to do.
Tell me what happened.
Yeah. Quantum Archive.
Hmm.
This also feels like Blade Runner.
Yep. I think the outside almost looked like old Star Trek, like
It was
Federation
very,
shit.
yeah, I agree. It fit pretty well with that idea. I thought it was weird that he kept that.
What was that from? I don't actually
That was
remember.
Picard Day on the Enterprise when like they had a day where the kids celebrated Captain Picard and
Oh.
they had that whole banner. And
Oh.
I love the idea that he kept that. It's also super
Is that
weird
the
to
one where he gets
me.
trapped in the elevator?
I think that's the one with the kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Okay.
That
So I
that thing
guess
right
that helps.
there, that whole box zipping itself up and moving out of the way, I thought was spot on what I expect from a sci-fi show and Star Trek. Like with like, what are the little touches of how technology is different? And I thought that was a really good example.
Hmm.
That felt futuristic. It felt realistic. It had a purpose in what it was doing. I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something I've seen a million times.
Right.
I wonder what the other painting is called.
Yeah. It's a good point. I did feel like that was like a little on the nose, but like it's
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. It's
Hmm.
Data. He's generally an on the nose kind of character.
Yeah. Back to Blade Runner.
Yep, yep. This is so Blade Runner. It doesn't help that she's on the run.
Yeah.
So is she in on this thing?
That's a great question. I kind of assumed this, like the Romulans are faking this footage,
Oh, you think it's fake?
but the fact that she's like, the fact that she knows that and she wants him to go to Picard.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, Yeah, I don't know what I think about that.
Yeah, I thought it was weird. I was getting
Yeah.
suspicious, and
This
then it was
thing right
like,
here, where she's sort of hacking visually or with the holograms, I thought worked pretty well with like visualizing what she's doing conceptually
mm-hmm.
in terms of this hacking thing. So I'll give them points for that.
Yeah.
Why was Picard in Boston? Wait, he wasn't in. Oh, she was in Boston, and then he
Yeah.
was in France, and now
Yeah.
he's in San Francisco.
Exactly.
Okay, international. This story has gotten smaller. It's
Yeah.
international instead of intergalactic. You're schizophrenia. It's a third option you weren't expecting. The two combined. He's like, "Have you seen Star Trek: The Next Generation?"
Because if not, you should watch it. It's really
Yeah, it
good.
really explains this whole backstory. How much I care. I was gonna say the painting should have been named her name,
Mm-hmm.
assuming Data named her, which maybe he didn't.
Right.
Some of that doesn't. Just because he's an android, like some of that, I'm like, I don't know what. Like, you knew me, therefore you're an android. It's like I don't really get that.
Yeah, I agree. That's not the best
He's so
reason.
unconvinced. Someone implanted in your brain. Have you seen Blade Runner?
This is so Blade Runner. Oh my god.
Yeah.
They literally have this scene. Or maybe she can.
Try her, yeah. I mean, I thought that was weird too because it felt like that it was this weird coincidence that it seems like we should read into, but I think it's just a coincidence.
I agree. Yeah. What is
Like,
she
tap your
sensing
comm badge
exactly?
and like call Starfleet security. Like, what's happening to this planet here?
Yeah, it is pretty bad.
Like, there's no security. There's no 911. I don't have a phone. There's no voice activated security systems. Like, there's no law enforcement that would be on the scene immediately when there's phaser fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of this, it's too much. It's just too
It's a
much. Like,
lot. It's a
it's like
lot.
uh it's like Serenity level, Firefly.
Yeah.
Like I'm engineered to fight, and instead of it
Yep.
being like Well, she's fast, but she's super strong. She doesn't have to do martial arts to
Yeah.
stop these guys.
Yeah. Wait, why did he disappear?
He got teleported out.
Oh, that was teleportation. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that they don't show teleportation, but I guess
No,
that's
yeah,
what
they
that is.
yeah.
So he like spit acid. I didn't really understand what happened
I think
there.
either his blood is corrosive or yeah, I think that's the idea is his blood is corrosive or something.
Is that true of Romulans in general?
I
Or is
don't
that just like
remember
some
that being a
special?
thing.
I don't remember that being a thing either. So I was just like, I was a bit confused by that. Or if it was like a tactic, like we'll
Hmm.
come with like acid to spit if
I
all
also
of
thought maybe it was a like one of those suicide tablets, that
yeah,
a soldier would have, but in this case, it has the added effect of making your saliva acidic as it
yeah,
kills you, and that's what he
right.
did.
Yeah, I can't believe she died because like he spit on her. Like
Yep.
that's just really strange.
Yep.
I was like expecting it to be a dream or something. I'm like, there's no way that just
I thought it was
happened.
gonna be she survived the explosion
Yeah,
miraculously, because she's an android, and somehow that
yeah.
she's got extra qualities we didn't expect. I always forget she's a Romulan because I can't see her ears.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I just keep thinking, why does her face look weird? Oh, it's her eyebrows. What's wrong with her eyebrows? Like, oh, she's a
Yeah,
Romulan.
yeah. I just assumed that it was like Romulan revenge for the synthetic attack, but I guess like that's probably something they'll develop since they set it up here, and it won't be that
Mm-hmm.
simple.
Did Jordy study at the Daystrom Institute?
It's a good
I
question.
feel like he
I don't
did.
I don't remember it being mentioned before, but
Oh no, it's
it's been a
famous.
while.
Ah, what a question. Oh wow, the Sung Foundation. What is this? Huh. They said the Sung Foundation was a group within the Daystrom Institute.
Oh.
This might be from a novel, though. I'm not sure how canon it is. We actually have real ghosts. I also thought this was really just bad too. Like these desks with lights on them. Like, fuck
Mhm.
this shit. This is not the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
This is not how you're designing things in the future. Sitting at a desk. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
really no. And after. don't tell me shit about Data. I know everything there is to know about Data. I feel like Picard's like, it's like, do you know who I am?
Yeah, I feel like that's partially for the audience.
Yeah, I know. Some guy we'll talk about off screen who's really integral to all this stuff, but he's not the main person we're talking to. God, it's so boring. Oh, Bruce. So poor Bruce. Hopefully, we'll see him on screen at some point.
I think we might, since there's this setup that he
Mm-hmm.
disappeared.
This is the longer no. It means you're a thief. I mean, you stole her necklace. Like, how did he get this? Because, like, she died in his
I was
prison.
thinking the same thing. I'm like, wait, did he hold on to that? Did he grab?
No,
Like, how did
yeah,
he?
he gave it back to her in that scene.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, that's weird. Fractal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Maddox again. He seems integral to everything. We dodged the bullet on this
Ah!
storyline. Okay, so Data didn't create the daughters. Maddox created the
Okay.
daughters based off of Data somehow.
Okay.
Why? I just wish you would have said why. It's just that it's
Yeah.
just if you knew anything about fractal, whatever I said, you'd
Mm-hmm.
know that
It just has to
it
be
just has to
twins
be two. They're
because you
created
always
in.
get two
You
something
just gotta do
something.
two for one.
Yeah. This camera movement.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. This is like that's like Star Wars. Like, why are we in Star Wars
Yeah, that's
now?
exactly what I was thinking. Uh-oh.
Here he
Uh-oh.
is, the most human man I've ever seen in
Is
my
that supposed to
entire
be
life.
Romulan? Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's also weird that they're in a Borg cube.
Yeah, yeah. I assumed we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
I also have a bed. I hate that she's touching her necklace. Like, I hate that she's calling attention to it. I hate her
Yeah.
lines about her dad. It's like she's a completely way less interesting character than the other one.
Oh, this thing I'm like calling
Yeah.
attention to?
This. Oh, do you want me to tell you all about it? Oh, I just want to tell you I have a sister, by the way. I'm a twin. We were twins, in case you were wondering.
That thing we just found out. Yeah.
Yeah. When a plot happened. We'll get to it later. The other thing that's weird is like he's got like nothing, no charisma or nothing interesting about him, and yet she's like all interested. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, I don't understand. I don't get it. What happened?
It's
Why?
got to be the beard.
It's the beard.
The beard is
So then we get
irresistible.
the. I knew when we were panning out this slowly and this dramatically. I'm like, okay, they're trying to tell us something here. But obviously, if you're paying attention to the title sequence, you know,
Yeah.
Borg Cube was involved.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool idea. I'm assuming the idea here is they needed a place to resettle and no one else would take them,
Right.
and they found a cube.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of sort of rebuilding it, which will be, I'm assuming, the threat that will
Right.
face the Federation at some point if they get this cube up and running.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I don't know what those things are in this in
I don't
space.
either. Yeah,
I
I was
can't
wondering
tell if
about
there were like mines or charges or like defense mechanisms or they were somehow helping stabilize the cube. So
that. Yeah. Uh
all
yeah, I don't
right.
know.
Yeah, I mean it's like perfectly fine. Like I don't I think that to me the question is going to be the plot that they're telling, the story that they're telling with Vaj and Saj and whatever. um
Yeah,
because there's got to be twins, because you make one you got to get two.
yeah.
It
Just
is
how
that
it
story going to
is.
be interesting enough? Because I don't know if I'm going to care to see this Picard's emotional journey alone. Like watch him pontificate about the past. But yeah, so this story's got to be interesting. Whatever's happening with the clones and the Romulans and the androids, right? Oh my, um, has
Yeah.
got to be like really novel because they're already into well-worn territory. They're
Yeah.
starting off aping other stuff, like just right off the
Definitely.
bat.
Yeah.
And it does feel like Blade Runner, 24, 100 or something. Like it feels like if if Decker was Picard's age or something, and
Mhm.
then from the events of the original Blade Runner, they outlawed all androids, right? And
Right. Yep.
then like now this new one comes to him and needs help. Like that's
Yeah.
pretty much the same story.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's true. Yeah. And even the visual, some of the scenes in the city and stuff have
Mm-hmm.
evoked that with the rain and,
Yep.
this general sort of look. Yeah, no, I hope they have something interesting planned for like how they're gonna tie it all together. But yeah, I agree. It doesn't hold a ton of promise at this point. But I think it is the kind of thing where uh, there's a basic enjoyment about it that
Mm-hmm.
almost cannot be destroyed, like without like killing off Picard or something.
I basically agree with you, but I do think it's easier said than done because kind of the point I was trying to make was that if they put him in really obnoxious situations, I think it will ruin him. I think there's scenes you don't want to see him in that they could do,
Right.
and you're like, oh yeah, I don't want to see this version of him. Like it's ruining his character. I mean, obviously Patrick Stewart will always be great, but like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
things they can do, man. I'm worried about that. It's like, but I think I think that's a pretty low ceiling, a low floor, and I don't expect them
yeah.
to get that bad with it. But yeah, I am worried that if the story is really obnoxious, it won't even be worth watching him go through
Right.
the motions on it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they make something super interesting.
Yeah, he's gonna have to like get a crew together and it's gonna
And
be
that's the thing. If the
a whole
crew's
thing.
horrible, like,
Yeah, that's a big risk, I think.
mm-hmm,
Because it won't be the old crew. It's gonna be
mm-hmm.
like a bunch of new
Crews are
people.
tough. I tell you,
They
crews are one of the
are.
hardest thing to write, and that's why a lot of most of the aliens movies are bad, is because they none of them since the original has really nailed the crew.
Yeah.
and the first two do, but after that, like you just don't get that same feeling from nailing that whole crew thing. And like Star Trek's the same way, where yeah, you've gotta nail the crew.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, it does seem to me like the old characters are mostly going to be cameos.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like integral to the show the way Picard is, obviously.
Yeah, maybe a cameo a week.
Yeah,
Oh,
something
I
like
I
that.
have this thing I need. I wonder who can help me with that. I'll go see what
Hmm.
Riker's up to. You
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah. Oh, you named your dog after me, huh?
Yeah. Oh my God! You know there's going to be a line. So I heard you named your dog after me. Oh man, you totally called it. Oh man, totally called it.
I just think they have
Or
to
or
acknowledge
did you ever name that puppy? You know.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna totally be a line. Yeah.
And I guess Seven of Nine has to show up at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I don't. I guess she knows Picard. I don't even know.
She
Uh.
does not know Picard, so that
Okay.
that will be
That'll be a
yes.
different thing.
Yeah, I mean her back for your info and everybody else, her backstory is that she's a human, she's human when she was a young girl. Her parents were basically the first Borg researchers, and they followed a Borg cube to the Delta Quadrant through a trans warp conduit, and her parents were on a runabout basically following this Borg cube, and so they did a bunch of early research on the Borg before like any other humans really met them. I think it was obviously still after the Locutus stuff, but it was
Hmm.
still like only a few the Borg were still very unknown, like they didn't
Right.
understand all the hive mentality and stuff like that, and the whole like they retcon sort of, but they theorized that there's a queen and all that kind of stuff before
Hmm.
anybody knew anything like that. So anyway, so her parents get assimilated by the Borg, as you would imagine
Right.
that story would end.
Yeah.
And so Seven of Nine basically goes from like age like I don't know 10 or something through early 20s as Borg,
Yeah.
and then so when Voyager finds her, she's just a regular Borg drone that they end up liberating from the collective, and then she has a whole journey back to finding her humanity after that. That's kind of her whole thing. So,
Right.
but so she spent her life basically in the Delta Quadrant. So she's had no interaction with Picard as far as the Voyager storyline is concerned. So yeah, when
Yeah,
she
yeah, that
shows
makes
up on
sense.
the
If it happened, it would have had to have been like somehow post
mm-hmm.
Voyager. Like I don't know when that ended. If it ended before the Next Generation movies came out, like if it would even be possible. You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
think it ended before. Well, they never talk about Voyager in those movies, but I
Okay.
think there is some overlap.
I feel like I remember like the Doctor program appearing in one of those movies. Am I crazy?
Yeah, I think he in the last movie maybe. Um, yeah, there was
I don't
something.
exactly know Star Trek inside and out, though I am a fan,
Well,
but
I
yeah,
do
it's a
clearly.
lot of details. I just have a vague memory of like seeing that and going like, "Oh yeah, that's from that show I haven't seen."
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm trying to remember. I know there was some crossover between when Voyager was still
Or
on.
maybe it was on Deep Space Nine. I'm not sure.
Let's see. We can answer this question very easily.
So easy.
It's so easy. Hey, try it at home, folks. Guess you got to spell doctor, right? Okay, let's see. Was he ever on?
Oh, that's the way to look it up. Yeah, that's the easiest.
I don't see him listed in that movie. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Because I know what you're talking about, where he like
Okay,
shows up out of
good.
context.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah. Hmm. Anyway, yeah, I do. Yeah, that's. Yeah, I was just thinking about how much it nails the feeling of Star Trek. I think it's it. Yeah, I think it does hit a middle ground between the J.J. Abrams stuff, right? That obviously has a big influence on the whole style and tone of
Right.
Picard.
Ah, he's in a Deep Space Nine episode.
D Space Nine, okay,
Yeah, Dr. Bashir, I presume.
classic.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm remembering.
I'm assuming it wasn't the Doctor. Doctor was
It's
just another
just the
hologram.
program.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the emergency medical hologram.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 7 of 9. But yeah, anyway, when she shows up, yeah, I'm curious what their relationship is gonna.
Oh, and the real person it's based on, I guess.
Dr. Zimmerman.
Yeah.
He was also in the Deep Space Nine episode.
Yeah, apparently.
Hmm. It's been a while since I've seen Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But I was like, I thought I remembered seeing that character in something, and yeah, I think that's what I was thinking of because it doesn't
Oh,
look
he
like.
is in First Contact. There it
Oh, really?
is.
After all that,
Yeah.
first contact? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I thought there was something. Okay. Yeah, First Contact.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I missed
Yeah,
that
but he's
somehow.
just he's just
Okay.
another same thing though. He's just the holographic
It's
Doctor.
both. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so they don't really talk about Voyager at all in the movies. So I
Right.
think I don't. I feel like the movie's in before Voyager returns to the Alpha Quadrant, but maybe not.
Yeah. Either way, they'll have to tell us if they
Hmm.
have any association because it hasn't been shown.
Yeah. So and there's also Hughes coming back. Um,
Oh, Hugh's coming back. The first seven
yes.
of nine.
Yeah. Um, they actually did that Hugh plotline again, like in Voyager.
Oh, they did?
There's
Wow.
another like drone that was created and the whole thing, but um, yeah, I'm curious why he's coming back. What they're gonna do with that? But yeah, I'll keep watching, see how it goes. How many episodes is it for Picard? 10 episodes this season? Nope. Let's see now. 10. Yeah, both 10 this season and next season. The fact that they picked it up for a second season before it premiered, I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that means they tested it and it tested very well. I guess
Yeah,
that's what that would mean.
probably. Yeah.
Um, which I guess bodes well if they were like, okay, we can, even
Mm-hmm.
before it airs, we'll tell everybody it's coming back.
Yeah.
Did you hear that Patrick Stewart was on The View the other day? And he
No.
offered, and Whoopi Goldberg is on The View.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and so he made an official offer from Alex Kurtman, executive producer, for her to come on season 2.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was very, 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 very blown away by that. So we're gonna have the return of Guinan.
Wow.
Yeah, which is like you can do stuff like that. I'm gonna be watching. Uh,
Yeah.
so I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty awesome. So I think at the least maybe season 1 is something that can be fairly encapsulated, about what the scope of it is, and then maybe season 2
Mm-hmm.
can be about something more interesting.
Yeah. Expand a bit.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's interesting if they get this right because you could do a version of this show with any Star Trek character then.
Very true.
Like, can you imagine Star Trek Janeway? I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what is Captain Janeway up to after all this time?
Yeah.
She spent 7 years trying to get her crew across halfway across the galaxy and barely made it. Had to I don't want to ruin the ending, but I had to do some stuff to get it done. And yeah, let's follow up with her and see what she's doing. And Kate Mulgrew is still acting. She's still great. She's still in things, so she's
Hmm.
still around. So you could have that. I don't know if Avery Brooks is still that active, but come on. I am still waiting for Commander Cisco to return from his adventure with the wormhole aliens. Like, I've always had this idea of a show uh, where we pick up with D Space Nine from Jake Sisko's perspective, and he's eight, it's like 20, 30 years later, whatever, and he basically has been throughout that period of time trying to find his dad, and going through Bajoran archaeological sites, learning everything he can about the wormhole aliens, and probably even that taking him to um, the gamma quadrant, right? And
Hmm.
exploring out there, and just like whatever he could find out to figure out like where his dad went and get him back, and then he's like going through that whole thing, and then like his dad returns or something, whatever, and like I want to see the Cisco's, I want to see like something, or it's like he appears to Jake and he's like, it's your turn now, Jake, or he's dying or something, and there he was on some crazy, metaphysical quest, and now Jake has to, Jake, you're the new emissary, basically, is how the
Right.
pilot ends. You know what I mean? Of like this show. So Jake gets to find his dad and close that chapter, but now he's got some huge task he's got to fulfill, and now he's sort of the new Cisco.
Yeah.
Like I'd love to see a show like that. I think that whole thing with Cisco disappearing and leaving. I think like I really don't want to die without that getting some closure. Like I feel like it's such a cool. It reminds me of like Twin Peaks, of like
Yeah.
of Cooper being in the lodge for 25 years. Like that
Yeah.
feeling of closure, when you get to the other side of that is so powerful. So it's
It's
like I'd be
true.
so cool if we could get him to like come back, and even if he doesn't stay around that long.
Right. Yeah. 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 No, yeah, I would definitely like that. That would be great. That'd be really cool to see.
And it's actually interesting, like if they did more shows that were a bit more grounded for Star Trek, where it's just these
Hmm.
like character studies, and
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
have to be like a space adventure show,
Right.
because we
Yeah.
already get to know the characters, and then you can just do like politics or something,
Right.
and talk about the actual nature of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing about the new show that kind of stands out in terms of like having another season that like there's no I mean, I know it's like TV's change and stuff, but there's no obvious story engine. Like it's very much revolving around this one plot, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like if they're out in space or even in sitting in a space station, like the story is sort of come along
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of makes sense how you could sustain that for a while. But I think the way they're writing this show, it's like it's like a serialized thing, which means that they have to keep like developing this like one, I mean, obviously they can go to a new thing next season, but it's still going to be like centered on Picard and it's going to
Yeah, it's
be
going to be
like,
about him getting involved in something
yeah.
uh for the course of the season, versus like, yeah, every week there's some reason a new storyline happens.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not, I don't know, it's not obvious like how I mean, in a way it's just a more it's a more limited focus, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine with me. The week to week thing can be tedious in its own way, but uh, but yeah, it's gonna make it like inherently a totally different show.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
not gonna be about exploring anything. It's
No.
gonna be about like this
Well, it's
thing
going
is
to be
happening
about
to
it
Picard.
exploring human nature. I mean, come on. That's the final
Exactly.
frontier, right?
Oh no, the true
Yeah.
final
The true
frontier.
final frontier.
It wasn't out there.
He was in here.
all along.
Set your phasers to stunned. We should have.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Oh
Warp
no.
drive to your heart.
They're gonna say that. They're gonna say
Yeah.
that.
But yeah, it could have been a lot worse. I thought,
Yeah.
you know, you know what it feels like. It reminded me of it's got when it works well, which is like Picard on screen by himself.
Hmm.
It reminds me of the finale, All Good Things. You know, where we
Yeah.
spent had that time
Yeah.
of him where he's just a normal guy. You know, after all his
Yeah.
Starfleet time, so it's calling back to that a
Yeah.
lot.
Definitely. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, that was a
I
good
would
one.
love Q to show up, John Delancey. Like I
Oh
know, and
yeah.
then he just has to say Q's age. You know, it's fine. It's like,
Right.
well, Picard, I didn't want you to be the only one with wrinkles.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
make myself
yeah.
look like this. But
It's
that was,
easy with Q because he can do anything.
yeah.
So you can just make up some bullshit excuse. Like he doesn't really have that body. He just appears that way.
Mm-hmm.
He can appear like any number of ways.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, yeah. It's data is harder, I think,
Oh yeah.
because like yeah, it shouldn't happen. They have to contrive it more, I think.
I wonder if the goal is that Data is gonna like my instincts should be like Data's memory is locked in the daughter's body, and they
Mm-hmm.
need to access that information for some reason, right? So you get Data's mind and you put it in the body of before, so now you can talk to Data again. Hooray! But like, why? Right? So what does he
Yeah.
know that they need plot wise?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
The
and
weird
is
thing
it?
is he died before this like synthetic attack, like well before, I think, if
Mm-hmm.
I get the timeline right. So it's not clear why he would know anything about that. Um, let alone like, did he even know like there were other synthetic? I mean, all that stuff happened
Yeah,
after he
you're right.
died,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's like it's not clear to me why he would know anything about any of
Mm-hmm.
this, really.
Mm-hmm.
Uh Yeah, I don't know, except maybe the Romulan stuff. Maybe since we're an alternate timeline world, so who knows? But yeah, I think it's a good yeah, it's a good point. I feel like this like inventor guy has some exposition to give. That seems
Mm-hmm.
clear.
Yep.
Um, I mean, I don't know how much he knows about everything, but he should at least know about like the more recent like synthetic phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
Have something to say about it. Um,
I guess back to the mother and why she was saying go to Picard. I guess she knows that that's not her real daughter. So
yeah,
she was told if anybody comes for her, then tell her to go to Picard, maybe, which is
yeah,
explains
that's what
that
it
to
seems
me.
like. So that I mean that suggests like a larger conspiracy um than
Mm-hmm.
just like because the way they portrayed it with Raj, no, not Raj. Daj? Is it
Dodge.
Daj? Okay.
It's like Data, but it's Dodge.
Right. So similar. The way they portrayed it with her is like she just had these like mental flashes and she was just like triggered by this image, so she just tracked them down. Like no one told her to do that originally, as far as I could tell. So yeah, so I think it's a little I don't know. There's some extra thing
Yeah,
happening
that's what's weird is that her instinct when she was scared was to go to Picard, which would suggest that I guess the idea is she's getting it from Data's memories, but it's not like but you would think that whoever created her programmed a failsafe of like, okay,
there. Yeah.
go but why would the guy who created her he does nothing about Picard, right?
Wow,
So
that's why I gotta track him down.
that's why I gotta track him down. It's a good
What are
reason
you
to go find
doing?
him.
What are you doing, Maddox?
Maddox, if that
What's
is
your
your real
deal?
name. Good old Maddox. All right, well, That was cool. That
Yeah.
was fine.
I mean, I can't complain that much,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm prepared to watch the rest of it. It's a short season.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's 25 episodes of this, so,
Yeah.
you know, how bad can it be?
Uh-oh. We want to find out.
I dare you to disappoint me. Star Trek Picard.
CBS has never let me down. All right. Well, until next time.
All right. Sounds good. See you later. Bye.